Hi guys, I'm Kevin Lee Jacobs, and today I'm going to show you how to make French macarons. Macarons are probably the most glamorous of all French cookies. They're not easy to make, but they're not impossible to make. I made probably 200 macarons last week as I tried to perfect my macaron making technique. And the first dozen or so batches were not so good. Let me show you. I ended up with kind of crinkled round tops. And that's what you don't want. And also, some of the macarons cracked on the top, but it was all because of my faulty mixing technique. So I think I've mastered the macaron. And now I'd like to share with you the special technique. Good macarons look like these subjects here. And you can color them any shade you'd like. Yellow, pink, blue, red, whatever. A good macaron looks like this. It has a flat, shiny top, and the bottom is ruffled. And that ruffled bottom is called the foot. First things first, you'll need a template. This way your macarons will all be equal in size. And what I did was take a sheet of parchment paper and I took a 1.5 inch biscuit cutter and a pen. I used a Sharpie, but regular pen will do. And I just traced around the biscuit cutter to make my little circles. And what we will do then is put another sheet of parchment paper on top. That way your macarons won't come in contact with the ink. What you do is put 2 cups of confectioner's sugar in a food processor and 1 cup of almond meal or almond flour. Now this is already ground, but I'm going to grind it in the food processor. I've tried not grinding it first, and you end up with a very gritty almond meal in the cookies, and you don't want that grit, so be sure to grind. Add the ground almonds. These are from blanched almonds. Put the lid on and grind them for exactly 1 minute. Then take your sugar and almond mixture and pour it into a wire mesh sieve. I'm doing this over a sheet of parchment paper. And sift. I'm going to transfer the sifted mixture into a bowl just to make it easier to work with during the video. Macarons are always piped onto parchment paper, so obviously you'll need a piping bag. This is a 16-inch bag, although you could use a 12-inch bag, and it's outfitted with a number 12 tip. That's a round tip. And to keep the batter from oozing through while you're working, you twist the bottom of the bag and push it down so that nothing can leak. And then I like to set the bag in a quart-size jar just to make it a little easier to fill. And there we go. For the egg whites, you'll need 3 large room temperature eggs. And to bring my eggs to room temperature, I simply put them in a large glass bowl filled with hot tap water. And you leave them, for 5 or 10 minutes, and they'll come to room temperature right away. Room temperature egg whites always beat more fully than cold egg whites. I'm going to dry these off so that I don't get any excess moisture into the egg whites. Then crack each egg one at a time, like this, straight down, and remove the top shell. This is how I do egg whites. And drop the egg into your impeccably clean hand and let the white drop into a little bowl. And you can save the egg yolks if you'd like. You can freeze them, okay? And then one at a time, this is just to make sure that you don't get any egg yolk. If an egg yolk were to break, you'd ruin your egg whites because they won't beat properly then. And that's why I do them one at a time this way. And then the egg white goes into a stand mixer outfitted with the whipping attachment. I don't like to toggle the egg from shell to shell because the shells are sharp and very often the yolk will break and then you've ruined your egg whites. Now start beating the eggs at medium speed. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can always use electric hand beaters. And we're going to beat this at medium speed just until the whites begin to foam. The whites are nicely foamed, so now I'm going to add some tartaric acid, which is sold as cream of tartar. And the acid in the cream of tartar helps to stabilize the whites so they don't collapse easily. And in you go. I'm also going to add some superfine sugar. I like superfine sugar because it dissolves very quickly and you don't get the gritty taste that you would otherwise get from regular granulated sugar. And I'm going to do, 2.5 tablespoons. At this point, speed up the machine and whip the egg whites until they begin to form soft peaks. If you need exercise, you could always beat the egg whites in a large copper bowl with a very large wire whip. You'll get a really good workout. So these have foamed nicely, they're forming soft peaks. So at this point, I like to add a little food coloring. And I know that a lot of bakers will tell you to wait until the egg whites have formed stiff peaks to add the coloring. But what happens then is you end up with a lot of streaks in the mix. And I'm adding a little bit more than 1/4 teaspoon of blue food coloring. I think blue is a great color for spring. The amount of food color you use is entirely up to you. Since the egg whites are white, and because the almond flour and the confectioner's sugar are white, the color tends to be a little paler than what you think. We're going to whip these whites until they form stiff, shiny peaks. Let's check the viscosity of our whites. Let's see. I'm going to go like this and straight up. And as you can see, the point on this egg white is drooping. That means it hasn't been beaten quite enough. It needs to stand upright. So back to beating. Another test. So detach the wire whip, kind of stir it a little bit, pull straight up, and aha! The tips are standing perfectly erect. So these are stiffly beaten egg whites. That's what you want. Now comes the hard part. Grab a yellow spatula and add 1/3 to 1/2 of the almond mixture to the egg whites. And then we have to fold the dry ingredients into the whites. And to fold, you cut through the egg whites, scoop up, and the goal is to bring, maybe I should do it this way. The goal is to bring the dry ingredients up from the bottom over the top. Let me rephrase that. You want to bring what's on the bottom up to the top. And you don't need to be super careful here because we do, in fact, want to deflate the egg whites somewhat. The first time I made, well, the first dozen times I made macarons, I was very careful with my folding technique because I didn't want to deflate the whites. And that's why I ended up with the cracked tops or the tops that had little round points. They were bad macarons, but they were delicious macarons, so I ate them anyway. Okay, that's mixed in. So then add the rest of the almond mixture and go to town, folding, folding, folding. You can even flatten the whites to help them deflate. You have to get the batter just right, and I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. Okay, so this is too thick. So you just keep working the batter. Once you figure out how to get the right texture, you'll go crazy making macarons because they are, in fact, a lot of fun to make. And again, I can't imagine a more glamorous cookie to serve, either for afternoon tea or for dessert. I served them for dessert at a dinner party the other night. Oh, everybody loved them. Okay, let's check this. So now, this is starting to flow rather thickly from the spatula. And you want to be able to make little figure eights with the ribbons of batter. And you have to watch very carefully because the goal is to get the batter just thin enough that those figure eights disappear or become absorbed back into the batter within about 20 seconds. I think we are good to go. Working quickly now. Scoop the batter. Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful in texture and color. Scoop it into your piping bag. And again, that bag is outfitted with a number 12 tip. You can buy a piping bag at any craft type store, or you can order one online. They're really useful to have. Here we go. And do this. And then bring up the sides of the bag like so. And then get your baking sheet ready. Also, preheat your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So, with your right hand, twist the top of the piping bag to kind of force the batter down towards the piping tip, like so. And then, oops, pipe away, following your little template circles. And you can make the macarons slightly less than the full 1.5 inches because they do spread a little bit. I'm not a master piper, but I've gotten much better at the job. And now I actually enjoy doing it. And this goes very quickly. And I don't know if you can see the little points, but if you've deflated your whites just enough, those little points will be absorbed into the macarons. If they're not, it means you didn't fold your batter enough, and those points will just stay there. Okay. Then take the baking sheet, and you need to bang it down on a hard surface 5 times to cause air bubbles to rise. 1. And there we are. Now remove the template and set it on another baking tray and put another piece of parchment on top. And you want the macarons to sit for 15 to 30 minutes. They'll develop a skin, and when they're ready, you'll be able to run your finger over them and none of the batter will stick to your finger. My macarons have been sitting for about 20 minutes, so I'm going to test them now. So you take your finger, just kind of touch the edge of the macaron, and if no blue comes off on your pinky, then you'll know that the macarons are ready for the oven. And I'm going to bake these off now. They'll need 20 minutes in the 300-degree Fahrenheit oven. So my macarons have baked, and I let them cool for about a half hour on wire racks. So these look perfect. The tops are flat and shiny, and the bottoms have those beautiful ruffled feet. I'm going to whip up some lemon buttercream, and then I'm going to show you how to make some macaron sandwiches. And you go around the cookie, and don't go all the way to the edge, because when you put the cookies together and you press, the buttercream will actually spread out. It will be pushed out to the edge of the cookie. I forgot to mention that this recipe makes 40 wafers or 20 macaron sandwiches. And after you've filled them, you don't want to eat them right away. Instead, cover them with plastic wrap and refrigerate them for 24 to 48 hours. They'll have a much better texture that way. Nevertheless, I'm going to eat one right now. The tart lemon buttercream goes really well with the sweet macaron wafers. And even if your macarons don't turn out perfectly, you can rest assured that they will be absolutely delicious. So I hope you'll give them a try someday. And if you like this recipe, please give it a thumbs up. Please post a comment below. Let me know other recipes you'd like me to try. And I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.